the Box Reviews, Predator Week returns, and today we are looking at the NECA Predator Wave 13, the second Kenner tribute wave, and this is Scavage Predator. And it feels like it's been a long time since we've gotten a Predator Week. It's been 6 months. I think when this Predator line was newer, NECA was definitely cranking them out a lot quicker. There was even some years where we got like a wave, and then a month later we had a new wave on the shelves. But this slowdown has made room for some other cool things like Aliens and Planet of the Apes, which I haven't actually been reviewing, but I've picked up some of, and Godzilla and Pacific Rim, of course. But I was not super looking forward to another Kenner wave. If you saw my reviews on the previous figures, I was a little less than impressed with the lack of new detail on them, and also just the Kenner stuff doesn't really hit nostalgia for me. I never really had any of the Kenner Predators as a kid, and this wave leaves even more fear in my heart because, well, 2 of these figures in this wave are straight up repaints of the last Kenner tribute wave, and another is a repaint of the Jungle Hunter. And Scavage here is the straight up repaint of the Nightstorm Predator from the first Kenner tribute wave, which is just how Kenner did it back in the day, so you can't fault him too much on that. I recommended that Nightstorm Predator, so let's see if I recommend Scavage. Scavage does come with one accessory, it's the staff. The exact same staff that Nightstorm came with, this time though painted a nice metallic silver. It's very almost T800 looking with the metal skull up here. But they also add some red accents to it, so there's almost like a bloody red inside the skull, and then you kind of see it creeping through the chrome at other parts down the staff. So it's kind of a unique look, something I wasn't really expecting them to do, to have paint variation on this, but it really gives it a nice look. And the sculpt is very solid, he holds it well in his one hand. I do love how it's the skull with like the spear coming through the head and the rest of the spinal column wrapped around the top of the staff here. It's a cool looking accessory. Now, I feel like this style of accessory fits better with the Nightstorm, so I'm probably going to have Nightstorm keep his and not display Scavage with this one. But that's just my personal preference, not wanting to have 2 of these in my display, and I just think it fits with the Egyptian style Predator a little bit better. Now, if you were looking for something new with Scavage, there is 100% nothing new that I can find on this figure. Every single bit of this figure is reused from a previous figure. Actually, the entire figure here is an exact repaint of Nightstorm with one exception. We do get the same biomask we got on Nightstorm, but it's still a cool looking mask, once again done in a very cool silver. We got the red for the eyes there, cool horns coming up the back. Once again, I believe this says Kenner Tribe or something like that on here. But I really do like the detail they incorporate onto this biomask. I think they did a really good job. It even has the little laser projector up here. You can, of course, see his mouth coming through on it. Pull that mask off. We have the unmasked Berserker head, just repainted in kind of a green and turquoise. I like the overall paint scheme of it. I think it's a little dark and muddy on the front, but I actually really love the contrast with these red dreadlocks back here. Now mine feel a little gummy and a little like stuck together, which I don't believe the other Berserker heads really had. I think it's just something that happened in the making of this one. They're very, very stiff, which none of the other ones are, but I really like that kind of muted red color with the gold kind of jewels in it, and it fades up, and some of that color is carried over into the head itself. I just really like how that was done. The eyes are also nicely done, though there were some at the store that were a little wonky, but I picked one of the better ones. Nice yellow eyes, the standard Predator mouth, the big squid looking jaws that are on the Super Predator. Up here we do have Berserker's shoulder cannon, which is very cool. I like seeing these sculpts again, because, you know, we don't get them too much anymore, but it does rotate, of course, up here for the action that it has in the movie, and of course it hinges up and down, and rotates where it connects to the shoulder, though mine is kind of not seated in there all the way, so it's a little wobbly, but some hot air, some hot water can fix that very easily. Coming down the body, we do have the same shoulder armor we got on the Nightstorm, but I like it. It's very spaceman looking, and I think once again it works in this color, kind of gives it a new vibe to it, just being this silver armor with a high collar to it, the little kind of copper detailing in it. It does have a very cool look, and we can see this body. The head might be Berserker Predator, but the body is the Falconer Predator, the second release Falconer with a translucent design, so it does have the peg hole taken from the Falcon back there. No real reason not to use this body, I guess, so it works out. There's some good detail in this armor. I do like the armor, like I said. Just nothing new, but it's still cool. Come down the one arm, we do have a little piece of shoulder armor here, some nice texturing to the skin. Got a standard wrist gauntlet. We have a gripping hand with some armor on it for holding that staff. Other arm, more similar shoulder armor. Then we have the exact same kind of gauntlet here that Nightstorm had, painted in silver. over. And then for a brief shining moment, I thought these blades were new. I thought this was a new sculpt. And then the more I looked at them, the more I started to recognize them. These blades are taken right off of the Falcon for the Falconer Predator. So these are actually reused blades, just reinserted into this gauntlet instead of the large kind of hook blades that Nightstorm had. Not the biggest deal ever, but kind of interesting to see that it is another reuse of parts. Then we have a closed hand on that side. Some nice detailing through the chest, continuing that color pattern going through with some lighter greens thrown in, both in the chest and the arms to kind of highlight it. There's a loincloth down here with some browns and coppers. Now it's when we get down to this loincloth, actually, I know they were going for a leather effect, but I feel like they actually added one color too many. The copper is seen up here in the upper parts of the body in little places as an accent piece, but adding the brown in there is almost just like one more color we didn't need. We do have the black on the straps on the wrist and things. I almost felt like this could have been black. Yeah, this is like the nitpickiest nitpick I've ever nitpicked. But some good sculpting, stuff we've seen before, but still really well done. And having gotten the more modern Predators, I was kind of surprised how skinny these legs were. I forgot how kind of flimsy they felt. We got the leg armor taken straight over from the other Predators, and the big Predator boots with his toes sticking out. Once again, very cool looking, just nothing new. For articulation, we do have a ball joint at the head. The head is pretty limited up and down and even side to side because of this high collar he has on and the stiff dreadlocks. So we don't get a whole lot of range of motion, but we do have some. Of course, I talked about the plasma caster. It could swivel at the bottom, hinge up and down, as well as rotate the barrel. Pin socket shoulders, and go out to the side and forward and back. We have a hinge and rotate at the elbow. We have a ball joint at his wrist. We have what I believe is a ball joint at his waist. You can go a little up and down, forward and back, and then side to side. We have a V-cut at the crotch, a swivel at the upper thigh, bend and swivel at the knee, rotate right below the knee, and the foot, really all you can get is a swivel, but it is on a ball joint. It's just hindered by the sculpt here, but if this was a little softer, I guess you could actually get it to bend forward, but it all works out. And then for a straight up comparison, here is Scavage next to Nightstorm, and the only other real difference I could see in these two figures is that Nightstorm actually has a little bit extra on his armor, where Scavage does not, but virtually the exact same figure head to toe with very, very minor differences. As I said earlier, I'm probably going to keep Nightstorm with his staff, and now I think with the inclusion of a second Predator in my collection with this biomask, I'm going to keep the biomask on Scavage and keep Nightstorm without it because I really like Nightstorm's creepy looking glowing white eyes, and I think this is probably how I'm going to have these two displayed. Well, take the staff out of Scavage's hand, but basically the same idea here. And I'm trying to give a recommend to Scavage here, but he keeps falling over and making it very hard for me to do so. But before he falls over again, now that I have him leaning against the backdrop, I am going to give him a fairly weak recommend. But I think that recommend would get infinitely stronger the later you came into NECA's Predator line. If you're like me and have been collecting these since Wave 1 first hit stores, like I seriously remember haunting my local Toys R Us just waiting for that first wave to hit, then this probably has a lot less appeal to you, unless you're really big into the Kenner stuff. But if you came in a little later, when it was more the first movie and then later Predator 2, this guy's probably less likely to be in your collection, and maybe you're going to want this sculpt. And if you've come in late enough where you didn't even pick up the first Kenner wave, this guy's actually a lot cooler by that standard too. In the shadow of a figure that is almost exactly the same, he's definitely a weaker figure. But on his own, judging it in a void, I actually really like this one. The colors are more muted, which I like. They did the same thing with Nightstorm. It's a darker palette and kind of offsets that very cartoony look that the Kenner figures tend to have, which is the reason I'm not as big a fan of them. They just don't look like the Predators do in the movie. They're something completely different, which I get is part of the appeal, but just not so much to me. And yeah, he's got flaws. He's not a perfect figure, but he is cool. So a very weak recommend, but a recommend. Make sure you check me out on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And until next time, this has been our Outside the Box Reviews, and Predator Week continues next time.